President Xi Jinping tells UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer the two countries should rise above their differences. Suspected fraudulent job advertisements to hire construction workers. And a 10-meter-long dead whale found on a Sai Kung beach. Hello and welcome to TVB News. I'm Melissa Hekalea. President Xi Jinping hosted Keir Starmer in central Beijing earlier today on the first visit by a British Prime Minister in 8 years. The two have agreed to deepen economic ties and called for a comprehensive strategic partnership amid global uncertainty. The British side pointed out the prosperity of Hong Kong is in line with their common interests and that they're eager to see the SAR serve as a unique and important bridge between the two countries. Danny Zhou reports.
British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is the latest Western leader to engage in a flurry of diplomacy with Beijing at a time when the ties between Europe and the United States soured due to disputes over trade and security. President Xi Jinping said that he hopes to see a long-term and consistent strategic partnership with the UK during a meeting with Starmer at the Great Hall of the People. She said the relationship between their nations had gone through twists and turns that did not serve the interests of either side. Now faced with intertwined turmoil and change in the international landscape, he said, as permanent members of the United Nations Security Council, China and the UK need to strengthen dialogue and cooperation to safeguard world peace and stability, while boosting the economies and people's livelihoods in both nations. The Chinese leader has called Starmer's visit ahead of the looming Year of the Horse an auspicious sign that will lead the way in breaking fresh ground for further collaboration. Starmer delivered greetings from King Charles III and stressed the significance of building a more sophisticated relationship with China, saying the country is a vital player on the global stage. Starmer vowed to maintain high-level exchanges with Beijing, promote close exchanges in various fields, and ramp up cooperation in trade, investment, finance, and environmental protection. He also stressed the UK's stance on the Taiwan question remains unchanged. Later, standing outside the Forbidden City where he's given tour, Starmer briefed reporters about some progress coming out of that 80-minute summit.
Yes, we had a very good, productive session with real concrete outcomes, and it was a real strengthening of the relationship, and that's in the national interest because, of course, there are huge opportunities here in China, and we made some really good progress on tariffs for whiskey, on visa-free travel to China, and on information exchange and cooperation on irregular migration, focusing particularly on small boats and engine parts. So a very good constructive meeting with real outcomes, and that's very much in our national interest.
He also held separate meetings with Premier Li Qiang and China's top legislator Zhao Leji in Beijing. On Wednesday evening, Starmer and his entourage were spotted dining at a Yunnan cuisine restaurant known for mushroom-based dishes in Sanlitun area. Photos and videos featuring the British Prime Minister went viral online and sparked widespread discussion. Some netizens recalled the restaurant was visited by former US Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
China has executed 11 members of a Myanmar-based syndicate in a crackdown on scam operations. The crime syndicate killed 14 Chinese citizens and ran scam and gambling operations worth over 1 billion yuan, authorities said. The Wenzhou City Intermediate People's Court announced the execution in a statement Thursday morning. The court sentenced the 11 people to death in September. They included Ming Guoping and Ming Zhenzhen, who the court found led the notorious scam and gambling operations. The Office of the Privacy Commissioner for Personal Data received 42 complaints from construction workers who were suspected to have been tricked into revealing personal data by fraudulent job advertisements. Samantha Lee reports.
42 suspected fraud cases were reported to the Privacy Commissioner for Personal Data, or PCPD, over the past 2 weeks, involving construction workers who came across recruitment messages on social media, including WhatsApp, Facebook, and WeChat groups. After expressing interest in job vacancies advertised, they were asked to provide the so-called recruiters with their personal documents, including ID cards, construction worker registration cards, and construction industry safety training certificates, also known as the 3 essentials for construction sites. Some even shared their bank account details. The workers were later told to gather at specific MTR stations, but the recruiters failed to show up and could no longer be contacted. Fearing that information could be used illegally, the workers lodged complaints with the PCPD. The Hong Kong Construction Industry Employees General Union expressed anger over the issue. Union Chairman Chow Si-ki said workers generally do not have to provide the 3 essentials for construction sites before a formal interview. In addition, he pointed out that employers rarely recruit through social media platforms, as most companies have their own established networks of subcontractors and workers. The privacy watchdog advises job seekers to verify the identities of recruiters through official or reliable channels and avoid sharing sensitive information to unknown parties. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
The mandatory seatbelt regulations took effect on Sunday. This morning, a passenger was trapped after failing to unfasten his seatbelt and required firefighters' assistance. Citybus said the buckle was obstructed from functioning properly by a piece of tinfoil, and investigation suggests deliberate damage to the seatbelt. The passenger filmed the moment he was rescued. Citybus said around 10 a.m. they received a report from a passenger that a seatbelt could not be unfastened. The passenger said he was trapped for about 45 minutes without air conditioning and felt unwell, requiring hospitalization. The passenger said Citybus refused to cut the seatbelt with scissors and asked the Fire Services Department to help. Despite the incident, the passenger said he supports the seatbelt policy, saying it would save lives in case of an accident. A whale carcass was found on a beach in Ham Tin Wan in Sai Kung. An expert believes the whale had been dead for a few days and may have drifted into Hong Kong from open waters. Samantha Lee reports.
The whale's body was seen near the shoreline. Significant decomposition was evident across the body. Dressed in protective gear, personnel from the authorities arrived this afternoon to handle the remains. A local shop staff spotted the carcass at around 10 a.m. Noting that it was starting to decompose badly and internal organs were exposed. There was a strong odor, which could be smelled even 30 or 40 meters away. Vice Chairman of Hong Kong Dolphin Conservation Society Vienna Mag suggested the whale probably died elsewhere. She said judging by the level of decay, the whale had been dead for more than 2 days, and it probably drifted here after it died. As the body was relatively intact, it cannot be concluded that human activity was the cause of death. Founding chairman of a Theological Society of Hong Kong, Chung Di-Hua, said the recent warmer weather and direct sunlight would have accelerated the decomposition. Ocean Park has dispatched staff to the scene to take samples back for forensic testing. Samantha Lee, TVB News.
Over 100 fish died during a fish pond cleaning in a public housing estate in Chung Kwan O. Police have arrested the cleaning company's foreman on suspicion of animal cruelty. The incident occurred Monday night when police received a report that a large number of fish had died in a fish pond in King Lam Estate. The fish pond originally housed about 200 fish and 4 turtles. A cleaning company recently sent workers to clean the fish pond, scooping out many fish and placing them in plastic buckets. The Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals suspected that insufficient oxygen supply led to the death of over 100 fish. Following an investigation, police arrested the cleaning company's foreman yesterday afternoon. And still ahead, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the parties are in a good place when it comes to Greenland talks. India claims Nipah virus is under control in the country. And furry friends gather at the Hong Kong Pet Show. Welcome back. The U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee hearing concluded on Wednesday with Secretary of State Marco Rubio downplaying President Donald Trump's rift with NATO allies over Greenland in his testimony. Rubio noted technical talks with Denmark and Greenland officials over Arctic security are now underway.
And I thought it was noteworthy and important that despite your concerns, the president at his speech in Davos made very clear that the United States was not going to use force or military force in Greenland. So I think we're going to wind up in a good place. We got a little bit of work to do, but I think we're going to wind up in a good place. And I think you'll hear the same from our colleagues in Europe very shortly.
Canadian Governor-General Mary Simon is Greenland-bound next week to attend the opening of Canada's first consulate in Nuuk and hold talks with leaders. This marks the first visit to Greenland by a Canadian Governor-General since 1982. Simon was quoted as saying in a press release that the Arctic is stronger when nations work together. U.S. President Donald Trump urged Iran to come to the table and make a deal on nuclear weapons, or the next U.S. attack would be far worse. Tehran responded with a threat to strike back against the U.S., Israel, and those who support them. Nasvi Karim with more.
In June last year, Iran was preparing for nuclear talks with the United States. The U.S. and Israel then stunned Tehran by carrying out bombing raids, including American B-2 bomber hits on Iran's nuclear facilities. U.S. President Donald Trump is now calling on Iran to discuss its nuclear program or face potential attacks from an armada of military vessels heading towards the Persian Gulf. The U.S. threats are also based on what Washington says is the execution of thousands of people who recently took to the streets of Iran, protesting about the economy. With little trust on either side, Iran says this time it is ready to respond, not with words but with firepower, targeting Israel and U.S. facilities in the Arab world. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, in testimony to Congress, said an American presence in the region is crucial to counter the Iran threat.
We have to have enough force and power in the region, just on a baseline, to defend against that possibility. That at some point, as a result of something, the Iranian regime decides to strike at our true presence in the region.
Iran's Deputy Foreign Minister for Legal and International Affairs, Kazem Garibabadi, said Tehran is determined to create deterrence against the U.S. military buildup and threats. He said if Iran is attacked, they will deliver an appropriate response, not a proportionate one. Garibabadi added that if they are forced to target U.S. military bases in the region, they would focus solely on the facility and not the country. Meanwhile, in Iraq, hundreds protested in Baghdad against U.S. intervention in the country's internal affairs. They burned a picture showing a U.S. flag and Trump and chanted anti-American and anti-Israeli slogans. Trump recently hit out against the possible return of former Iraqi Prime Minister Nouri al-Maliki, who is nominated by the country's dominant political bloc to return to the premiership. Trump threatened to withdraw Washington's support for Iraq if he returns to power. Nasvi Karim, TVB News.
More talks between Russian and Ukrainian officials this coming Sunday in Abu Dhabi in an effort to end Europe's deadliest war since World War II. Meanwhile, an overnight attack in the Ukrainian city of Zaporizhia injured 6 people, according to local authorities. Ukraine's Air Force claimed more than 100 missiles or drones were shot down during the raid. At least 2 people were killed near Kyiv in a separate attack. A report from the Center for Strategic and International Studies said the number of soldiers killed, injured, or missing on both sides of the war could be 2 million by spring. The number of combatant deaths on the Russian side is estimated to be up to 325,000, while the Ukrainian deaths could be up to 140,000. U.S. Senate Democrats are threatening to block legislations that would fund the Department of Homeland Security and other agencies, potentially bringing the government a step closer to a partial shutdown. Democrats laid out a list of demands ahead of a Thursday test vote, including that federal officers take off their masks, identify themselves, and obtain warrants for arrests. According to Reuters, ICE officers in Minnesota have now been directed to avoid engaging with agitators as they carry out the immigration crackdown. The de-escalation by the White House came after 2 protesters were killed by ICE agents this month. On Wednesday, ICE agents tried to apprehend a man they were looking for, but he ran into a house and the agents lacked a judicial warrant to get inside.
This person, they saw us and they ran. Twice deported, convicted of domestic abuse, and released. That's what we're here for. You know, that's what we're here for. But, you know, they'd rather call the police on us than to help us. Go figure.
Indian authorities said they have contained a Nipah virus outbreak after confirming 2 cases in the eastern state of West Bengal. China and other Asian countries are tightening health screenings and airport surveillance for travelers arriving from India. India's health ministry said that 2 Nipah cases had been detected since December and that all identified contacts had been quarantined and tested. It said 196 contacts had been traced and all tested negative. The Nipah virus, which causes fever, convulsions, and vomiting, spreads through fruit bats, pigs, and human-to-human contact. A vaccine has yet to be developed. Chinese authorities are closely monitoring the situation, saying no domestic cases have been detected. Hong Kong, Thailand, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Vietnam have also tightened screening. In a crackdown operation against bid rigging, the Competition Commission searched 14 engineering contractors and consulting firms suspected of rigging contracts for maintenance work in housing estates and buildings. The estimated total contract value is $700 million. Mimo Singhai reports.
The case involves 13 residential housing estates and single building blocks, as well as 4 industrial and commercial buildings spread across 9 districts. Over 2 consecutive days, the Competition Commission, armed with court warrants, searched 27 premises, including offices and residences of those involved. The mastermind behind the group was an engineering contractor, with members including multiple engineering contractors, consulting firms, and other related individuals. The group had been operating for some time. During the bidding process for some projects, the mastermind will obtain confidential project estimates from consulting firms and then coordinate with other members to submit bids, creating the illusion of competition by submitting higher bids, thereby protecting the mastermind's chances of winning the contract. In other projects, contractors would run alongside each other, making an impression of competition to help a predetermined contractor win the bid. The Competition Commission stated that most of the contracts involved have not yet been awarded, and a decision on whether to take further action will be made after the investigation is completed. Mimo 9, TVB News.
A man with 38 prior criminal convictions was sentenced to life imprisonment for the brutal murder of an elderly man in Sham Shui Po. The 56-year-old defendant, Chung Kwok Phai, was engaged in a dispute with a 70-year-old man on Nam Chong Street in December 2021. Evidence revealed that after the victim was knocked to the ground, Chung continued to punch and kick him. The elderly man suffered severe injuries to his internal organs and passed away in April 2022 after months of hospitalization. The prosecutor noted Chung had 38 prior convictions dating back to 1991, including drug trafficking, assaulting police officers, and wounding. In her sentencing, Judge Amanda Jane Woodcock described the case as a tragedy and condemned Chung's actions as cruel. The annual 4-day pet show opened in Hong Kong Convention and Exhibition Center in Wan Chai on Thursday. Mimo Singhai reports.
Pets are an essential part of life for many Hong Kong people. Placed in trolleys, some dogs looked excited as they visited the pet fair with their owners. Others seemed to be calmer. Dogs that were not in a trolley had a leash around their necks. As an annual event, the pet fair gathered nearly 1,000 exhibitors this year, offering visitors a slew of products. Among the booths that sell pet food, a Singaporean brand focuses on premium products made with ingredients such as seafood and Wagyu beef.
Hong Kong market is a very sophisticated market, so customers are very focused on the quality. And in Singapore, we do seafood supplies. We see the demand in Hong Kong. That's why we just purely make it into a freeze-dry product so that the human and pets can consume the same food.
A first-time Japanese exhibitor at the fair said his dog food products will enter the Hong Kong market in April.
I think how people love dogs, it's actually the same in any countries around the world. But because people in Hong Kong, I think people in Hong Kong are more exposed to more variety of brands. So I think it's more competitive. It's going to be really an entrance to the Asian market. In that sense, Hong Kong is kind of an ideal location.
The venue also set up a Hong Kong-style casual cafe, or Chan Chan Ten, which is in fact a photo spot for owners to take pictures with their pets. Each owner can only bring one pet to the fair. More than that, then the person and the pets will be denied entry. Members 9, TVB News.
That is the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.